Hello. So I'm going to read to you the rest of chapter 1 from the book The Outsiders. So that's our read aloud. And you're going to follow along and you're going to continue using the stop and jot strategy. So the stop and jot strategy is where we write down any questions we have about what's going on in the story, comments maybe about a character, words that we don't know that we can look up later, or we could stop and look up. Because it's a Screencastify, you can stop this at any time and then you can go and look up a word or take time to keep your stop and jot. So as always, we keep our pad of paper next to us and a pen. And while we're reading, we could do that. Because this is my book, I actually have a lot of stop and jots in the book. So I'm able to do that because it is my copy of the book. Let's keep in mind, too, that we are filling out our character tracker because the strategy we're going to apply is how a character changes over the course of the book. And as this character is changing, it reveals life lessons. So by the time we get to the end of this book, we're going to see how these characters have changed, beginning, middle, and end, how they changed, and what lessons they learned as a result of their change, what lessons they've learned as a result of these changes. Because this is what we consider a coming of age novel. Okay, and we choose this novel for your age group because that's what's happening to you. You're coming of age. You're learning a lot about the world you live in. So I'm going to pick up where Mrs. Teaster left off. I'm on the bottom of page 6. We're talking about Darry. Darry is Ponyboy's older brother. Darry is 6'2" and broad-shouldered and muscular. He has dark brown hair that kicks out in front and a slight cowlick in the back, but just like Dad's. But Darry's eyes are his own. He's got eyes that are like 2 pieces of pale blue-green ice. They've got a determined set to them like the rest of him. He looks older than 20, tough, cool, and smart. He would be real handsome if his eyes weren't so cold. He doesn't understand anything that is not plain hard fact, but he uses his head. Okay, so just want to stop here and put some information on the character tracker about Darry. We learned a lot about this character in Ponyboy's brief description of him. I sat down again, rubbing my cheek where I'd been slugged the most. Darry jammed his fists in his pockets. They didn't hurt you too bad, did they? Okay, so just to go back, a good reader always goes back. Sorry, I didn't do that right away. But Ponyboy just got jumped coming out of the movie theater, and his brothers came and rescued him. I'm okay. They did. I was smarting and aching, and my chest was sore, and I was so nervous my hands were shaking. And I wanted to start bawling, but you just don't say that to Darry. I'm okay. Soda Pop came loping back. By then, I had figured that all the noise I had heard was the gang coming to rescue me. He dropped down beside me, examining my head. You got cut up a little, huh, Ponyboy? I only looked at him blankly. I did? He pulled out a handkerchief, wet the end of it with his tongue, and pressed it gently against the side of my head. You're bleeding like a stuck pig. I am? Look. He showed me the handkerchief, reddened as if by magic. Did they pull a blade on you? I remembered the voice. Need a haircut, greaser? The blade must have slipped while he was trying to shut me up. Yeah. Soda is handsomer than anyone else I know. Not like Darry. Soda's movie star kind of handsome, the kind that people stop on the street to watch go by. He's not as tall as Darry, and he's a little slimmer, but he has a finely drawn, sensitive face that somehow manages to be reckless and thoughtful at the same time. He's got dark gold hair that he combs back, long and silky and straight, and in the summer, the sun bleaches it to a shining wheat gold. His eyes are dark brown, lively, dancing, recklessly laughing, eyes that can be gentle and sympathetic one moment and blazing with anger the next. He has Dad's eyes, but Soda is one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without ever getting near alcohol. In our neighborhood, it's rare to find a kid who doesn't drink once in a while, but Soda never touches a drop. He doesn't need to. He gets drunk on just plain living. and he understands everybody. Okay, so I'm going to just pause for a second there. I think that's a real favorable review of a human being. So I think it's pretty obvious that Ponyboy really, really loves his brother, Soda Pop. And Hinton does a great job of painting a really good picture of what this character looks like. So I'm just going to stop and jot and notice that they mention the eyes. So Derry has eyes that are ice. I'm just going to go back. Pale blue-green ice. Okay, so that's how she's describing Derry's eyes. But Soda Pop, he has eyes that can be gentle. Okay, gentle. And blazing with anger the next. So we have very, very descriptive words to explain the character's eyes. Back to the story. He looked at me more closely. I looked away hurriedly because if you want to know the truth, I was starting to bawl. I knew I was white as I felt and I was shaking like a leaf. Bawl, B-A-W-L, is crying. Soda just put his hand on my shoulder. Easy, Ponyboy. They ain't going to hurt you no more. I know, I said, but the ground began to blur and I felt hot tears running down my cheeks. I brushed them away impatiently. I'm just a little spooked, that's all. I drew a quivering breath and quit crying. You just don't cry in front of Derry. Not unless you're hurt like Johnny had been that day we found him in the vacant lot. Compared to Johnny, I wasn't hurt at all. Soda rubbed my hair. You're an okay kid, Pony. I had to grin at him. Soda can make you grin no matter what. I guess it's because he's always grinning so much himself. You're crazy, Soda. Out of your mind. Derry looked as if he'd like to knock our heads together. You're both nuts. Soda merely cocked one eyebrow, a trick he'd pick up from Two-Bit. It seems to run in this family. Derry stared at him for a second, then cracked a grin. Soda Pop isn't afraid of him like everyone else and enjoys teasing him. I'd just as soon tease a full-grown grizzly, but for some reason, Derry seems to like being teased by Soda. So it turns out that Derry, this tough as nails character, has a soft spot for Soda Pop. Our gang had chased the Socias to their car and heaved rocks at them. They came running toward us now, 4 lean, hard guys. They were all as tough as nails, and I looked at. I had grown up with them, and they accepted me, even though I was younger, because I was Derry and Soda's kid brother, and I kept my mouth shut good. Steve Randall was 17, tall and lean, with thick, greasy hair he kept combed in complicated swirls. He was cocky, smart, and Soda's best buddy since grade school. Steve's specialty was cars. He could lift a hubcap quicker and more quietly than anyone in the neighborhood, but he also knew cars upside down and backward, and he could drive anything on wheels. He and Soda worked at the same gas station, Steve part-time and Soda full-time, and their station got more customers than any other in town. Whether that was because Steve was so good with cars or because Soda attracted girls like honey draws flies, I couldn't tell you. I liked Steve only because he was Soda's best friend. He didn't like me. He thought I was a tag-along and a kid. Soda always took me with them when they went places if they weren't taking girls, and that bugged Steve. It wasn't my fault. Soda always asked me. I didn't ask him. Soda doesn't think I'm a kid. Just trying to get the glare of that. Two-Bit Matthews was the oldest of the gang and the wisecracker of the bunch. He was about 6 feet tall, stocky in build, and very proud of his long, rusty-colored sideburns. He had gray eyes and a wide grin, and he couldn't stop making funny remarks to save his life. You couldn't shut that guy up. He always had to get his 2 bits worth in, hence his name. Even his teachers forgot his real name was Keith, and we hardly remembered he had one. Life was one big joke to Two-Bit. He was famous for shoplifting, and his black-handled switchblade, which he couldn't have acquired without his first talent, and he was always smarting off to the cops. He really couldn't help it. Everything he said was so irresistibly funny that he just had to let the police in on it to brighten up their dull lives. That's the way he explained it to me. He liked fights, blondes, and for some unfathomable reason, school. He was still a junior at 18, and a half, and he never learned anything. He just went for kicks. I liked him real well because he kept us laughing at ourselves as well as other things. If he reminded me of Will Rogers. Maybe it was the grin. Okay, so there's a reference to Will Rogers, and we know from our web quest that Will Rogers was a movie star. Okay, in that time period. Okay, we're going to stop right there because I've been reading for 10 minutes, and I would like you to take your stop and jot notes, have them ready for our discussion, and also have your character trackers ready to fill in.